What's going on, guys? Zane here with Everything Vive. Got another episode for you. So this week, Ronnie's actually out of town, and I'm actually going to switch it up. So we're going to do the interview first. This is our Tuesday episode, and today we have Kevin Lovgren from Whirlybird Studios, and they're the team that brought us VR Diner Duo. And if you have not tried it yet, it is a local multiplayer game. The person in the headset works as a chef. The person on the computer is the waiter. And it's a really fun collaborative game. It adds so much to the social element of VR experiences, especially for party atmospheres. And so if you haven't tried it, make sure you check it out. There's a link in the show notes to Steam. And Kevin and I get into it. Unfortunately, Ronnie is, like I said, out of town. So it's just Kevin and I. And we talk about the inspiration for the game, how it came about, how the team came about, and we even chat about the Swedish VR scene, which I think is really cool, and it's awesome to see so many cool titles coming out of there. But if you tried the game out, then you already know how much fun it is, and this should give you a little behind-the-scenes look at how it came about. So without further ado, let us jump right into it. Kevin, how you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for asking.
Oh, of course. Very excited to have you on the podcast today. You are behind the game VR Diner Duo, part of the Whirlybird Games studio. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Cool. So VR Diner Duo, I already gave a little intro for it, but I don't know if you want to talk a little bit more about how the game came about, maybe your role, because I understand you're the CEO, so maybe talk about the team, if there's a team, or if you are working on your own. I'm really curious how the game came about.
So I studied game development for a couple of years, and I felt like I want to try my hand at making a game that can sell. Right about that time, I heard about VR, and the VR bubble kind of went big. So I thought about making a VR game, and I have always been pretty big on the gameplay aspect. So I wanted to make something that was fun, and it didn't have to be super pretty, so I started prototyping on a lot of different games, but I got stuck on this prototype that was the beginning of Diner Duo, since it had this local multiplayer, which I thought was really cool, and I didn't see any other games that did that at the beginning of the VR games, so it was fun to make something kind of unique, so I started developing this game, and I started posting like GIFs on Reddit and other forums, and then I got contacted by my teammate Oso, who I hadn't met before, but who liked my game and wanted to cooperate and work with me. So we talked a bit, and then we started working together, and it was I was really lucky, actually, because I'm a programmer, so I do a lot of the coding and designing of the game, but I don't have a lot of experience in like graphics or music, but Osu or Robin had a lot of experience in both music and graphics, so he did all those parts of music, sound effects, and models and textures, while I just could focus on coding and designing the game. And then I had some help from my girlfriend with some PR and things like that. But mostly it's just me and Robin making the game.
Very cool. So, I have so many questions, but since you brought up Robin, how did you guys meet? I know you said you were posting GIFs on Reddit, but I guess how does that come together? Because a lot of the people on the show are actually aspiring developers or people that want to get into it. So, was there a way that you guys networked, or was it just a matter of you taking the time to put your ideas out there and finding someone who felt passionately enough about them to get them? I'm just curious how that relationship kind of built, or that business partnership kind of built.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird situation. So when I began developing the game, since I've studied this game development, I went to a school and there's a lot of other game developers studying there. So I asked around for for people to work with, but I couldn't find anyone because it's kind of a big risk to like, yeah, I'm making this game and I can't pay you, but I want to work with you, like this kind of deal. People don't really like that. So no one was really interested. So I was like, yeah, well, I guess I tried this alone. So I started working on this alone and got a working prototype. And as I said, I posted some GIFs, and Robin contacted me on Reddit. I was like, yeah, I do music and graphics. I would like to work with you. I've worked on a similar game that he had worked on with a friend, but it didn't work out. And I was very skeptical because like this random dude is contacting me on the internet. So I wasn't a fan on the beginning. So
I'm sure that's always kind of scary and creepy, right?
Nah, not really, but I have experience from starting up a lot of projects and then people are bailing after a week or two. It's difficult to find someone that actually has the motivation to complete a game. And also have the possibility to financially work on a game without big pay right away.
Gotcha. Okay.
But yeah, so I told Robin that like, no, I don't want to work with you unless you live in Sweden because I want to meet you in person, so I know who you are, because I didn't just want to be like strangers. And then he started writing to me in Swedish, like, yeah, but I live in Sweden.
So it worked out great, huh?
Yeah, so I gave it a shot, and it has worked great, actually.
So this is I guess a minor digression, but we've spoken to actually several developers in Sweden, and it seems like the game development or just development community over there is pretty strong. Would you agree with that, or maybe it's just random for us that we've spoken with several developers who've come out with pretty great games that all tend to reside in Sweden? But would you say that there's a strong community there?
Yeah, I will agree to that. Absolutely. I have a lot of friends from the Swedish developer community, and I think it's great. But it's like when you're studying game development, like in that city I was studying, there's a lot of game developers. So you meet a lot of people, and there's also like studios that are created there, so you can meet actual studios that makes games. I studied in a city called Skövde, and there's studios like Coffee Stain Studio, who's made Goat Simulator. There is Stunlock Studios that has made Battle Right, for example.
Very cool.
I studied in the same class as one of the developers on Cluster Track.
So it seems like a very tight knit community. I guess I'm just curious, why is that so? Is it because of the fact that there are a lot of somewhat established studios already that people are able to, study and then build those connections? Or I'm just curious how the community has grown in the last 5 to 10 years, and especially now with VR development.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but I think it has a lot to do with the studios, like the established studios, like Coffee Stain Studio. They're working very hard on helping newer studios, and there's help from the government or stuff that helps you start new studios and give you a lot of help with that stuff. I guess that helps, but also there are a lot of, I don't know, it feels like there are a lot of gamers in Sweden, and it's pretty easy to talk about and find other people with similar interests. So I don't know, people are nice about it. Yes.
Well, no, very cool. I mean, to the country of Sweden, all developers there, please continue coming out with great games. That's all I'll say.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get back to VR Diner Duo. It's like you were saying, in terms of its uniqueness, at the time when it came out a couple months back, it definitely was probably one of the most polished games in terms of utilizing local multiplayer. And I remember when I first booted it up, it was I was actually surprised at just how smooth everything felt, and how not that I was expecting lag or delay, but being able to see on the computer screen through the I guess the PC player's perspective, the movements in almost like a quick 1-to-1 ratio of what was happening. Well, I guess for both sides, people in the headset and on the computer screen. It was really impressive to see just how that had come together, because I hadn't really seen another game that had done something like that. So, like you were saying, you went down this route of doing local multiplayer. Have you ever created anything for VR that wasn't local multiplayer, or was this kind of your first foray into virtual reality development?
This is like my first big thing in virtual reality, but I started making some prototypes before that didn't have local multiplayer, that I just put out for free, but it was more like very small demos. It was mostly for me to get comfortable working in VR, and learning the tools, and whatnot. So it's hard to define if I made something other.
Yeah.
But yeah, I made some small prototypes before, without this local multiplayer thing.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no,
But
I guess I was just curious what challenges maybe that local multiplayer presented to you, because I want to say out of
okay.
out of all the developers we've had on the show, I think this is the first one that really took that local multiplayer, really went hard on that local multiplayer aspect. So I'm just curious what challenges maybe uniquely that you ran into in doing that.
Yeah, so one thing that I think is different when I made the game is I started, or I designed the game for the multiplayer. That was my main game mode. Like, the game is playable in single player, but I didn't design it for single player. I made the game so it would be for two people to play, and then I kind of added the single player into the game. So often it's the other way around. Like, you make a game and you make it so one player can play it, and then you add a multiplayer. But I made the game for multiplayer, which I guess helps a lot, and that's why the multiplayer part feels polished or well developed.
Mm-hmm.
But some challenges with the local multiplayer, I would say, was part is performance, because you have several cameras in the game, so there's a lot of things that need to be displayed at once. And VR already have 2 cameras, one for each eye, so adding even more cameras to the scene takes a toll on the performance. Also, there's I made a game in Unity, and getting the cameras to work as I wanted them to, like having one thing show on the screen and another thing in the VR headset, it was a challenge before at first, because at the time no one else really had done it, or I couldn't find information from anyone else how they did it, so I had to experiment a lot myself to find out how it worked. But after I got that correct, the rest was actually pretty easy, I would say, in the multiplayer aspect.
Gotcha. Okay, so just to clarify, and I apologize if this I'm pleading complete ignorance when it comes to the development side, but when it comes to cameras, are you referring to what like the computer player sees? Because I know you said there's 2 cameras in the headset already. So when you're talking about like additional cameras, would that be like the viewpoints that the person with the keyboard is seeing, and how they're able to manipulate that camera? Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, exactly. So in VR Design, like there's 3 cameras when you're playing multiplayer. It's 2 for the VR player, 1 for each eye, so you can see in 3D, and then there's 1 extra for the computer player. That's like above the waitress robot. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, just out of curiosity, what was some of the inspiration behind like the design for for the characters, because it's just got this really fun feel to it. You know, the characters, for lack of better words, they just look cute. Like everybody kind of coming in and walking around. It's very. I don't want it to sound bad. Like it's cartoonish, but in a way that has this like fun feel to it. You know what I mean? And I don't, was that more you or more Robin that was focused on that?
I would say there's a lot of thought behind it that I have or had when I told him what to do, and then he had made his own personal style to it. But in the beginning, when I started showing We Are Designed to Do, and also now, but less now, we got a lot of criticism because it looks a lot like Job Simulator, and I know about it. It's nothing wrong with it, but there's a reason that we use robots or floating robots, and it's since we were only two person working on it. I wanted to avoid making animations for the game. So to avoid making a lot of animations for the characters, we decided to have something simple, like floating robots. And that was something I made quite early in the prototypes. And it kind of stuck with its theme, with this futuristic theme. We also wanted to make the game very kid-friendly, so that's why it's kind of cartoonish. And we wanted to make the characters look cute. And so the whole family can play. A lot of the game is designed so everyone can play basically without being scared or something like that.
No, I mean, that's actually a great point. I think one of the other things too that we should mention in terms of allowing, you know, younger children to play is the fact that you can raise and lower the countertop. Correct?
Yeah, and that was something I tried to implement quite early, and I thought a lot about it because it's quite unique to VR to have to physically customize it to each person. And since I wanted a lot of different people to play it, I had to make it so everyone could play with the same standards.
Gotcha. No, it's definitely been it was definitely a nice change of pace and very refreshing when the game came out. And I remember, you know, it just since VR is so new for a lot of people, you get something like the Vive and you immediately want to show it to your friends. You want to show people who come over, but it's also a very a solo experience because, you know, you can't really interact. And so it was nice having a game where people could come in or an experience where people could come in and try both, or, you know, the people watching could also be very much a part of that. And so not that all the other local multiplayers are like this, but what I really like about VR Diner Duo was the cooperative nature of it. You know, there are some games where you have VR player versus the keyboard player. And so this was just a nice one where, you know, there's a cooperative nature to it. And I know there are other ones out there, but I felt like this one really utilized the Vive to a full excuse me, the Vive to its like full potential.
There's a lot of reasons why it is like this. Like, I wanted to make a cooperation game since I play a lot of games with my girlfriend. So we like cooperation games, and I've always felt there aren't enough co-op games. So when I started making my own, I wanted to make it a co-op, and I have a very strong emphasis on communication in this game.
Yes,
because I think like most games that you play with your friends is funnier the more you have to scream at each other.
Very much so.
I took a lot of inspiration on that part from the game Keep Talking and Nobody Explodes.
I was just thinking about that as well. So that's another fun one. But like I was saying, since you're using like an Xbox controller or a gamepad controller, it doesn't utilize the Vive to the fullest. It doesn't for me, like it doesn't make use of VR as much. And you know, nothing against Keep Talking Nobody Explodes, but you could actually play the game on a computer and just have people around you. You know, on like a computer screen and just have people around you with the sheets. You know what I mean? It doesn't necessarily have to be in VR. But I know that they've recently talked about I think they recently updated and maybe are implementing that. But what I really liked about VR Diner Duo was just the simple fact that like you're standing up. It's you get to use the controllers, you get to move around the space, and it's just there's just such a nice feel to it, and I just felt like it really utilized the mechanics of the Vive, and then also the new at the time the very new idea of local multiplayer was just such a fresh kind of change of pace for people who had been playing just these single player experiences. So I'm really glad that you were focusing on that.
Yeah, I'm glad people have enjoyed it. I'm really glad about that. So
yeah, it's been a lot of fun, and like you said, just people screaming at each other. There is, I mean, it's 100% cooperation. I mean, you can say that about the other games as well, but like you can't succeed on your own. There's no carrying the team one person or the other. Like you really have to work together, and I do like that because it has made, I guess, virtual reality parties or gatherings or with people, they're much more lively now. Because there's this sense of cooperative nature to it. So I guess I wanted to transition to what the future looks like. I know VR Diner Duo is out, and you guys are obviously enjoying the fact that people are enjoying it. But I'm just curious for Whirlybird Games, for you, for Robin. Are there next steps? Are there next things that you guys are focusing on, or something that you're focusing on? Would it be within VR Diner Duo, or are there other projects that you're considering now?
So first of all, while like I developed Diner Duo in about half a year with Robin, and during that time I worked on it full time. So I put a lot of my own savings into developing the game, and soon after the release, I started working part time. So I'm only working part time on game developing right now. Mm-hmm. But we have just started on working on a PlayStation VR port for VR Diner Duo. So that's our first thing we're working on next.
Gotcha. Okay. I know, and this is available for the Oculus Touch as well, too, right?
Yeah, through Steam. So I've added support for the Oculus Touch controllers, but it's not on the Oculus Home.
Gotcha. Was it difficult, kind of transitioning that into a cross-platform title, or was I guess I know we've spoken to several developers who have gone through that process since the Touch came out in December. I guess I'm just curious from your perspective with local multiplayer, was that any different?
Yeah, not necessarily because it was local multiplayer, but it was a bit messy to make everything correct. It was. I think it's kind of good now, but it took a couple of tries to get it right, and I've updated it several times to change it to fix the problems that people had. When I started working on the game, I'm using a toolkit that's called the VR toolkit in Unity.
Gotcha. Okay.
That I know a lot of other games are using.
Oh, we've heard great things about that, actually. So.
Yeah. So it basically lets you. It gives you a lot of tools to use in VR development. And since I started before the summer of 2016, I used quite an early version of the toolkit, and then I didn't really update it through development. So when it came to because when I released the game, the person who worked on the toolkit had updated the toolkit to work with Oculus, but I hadn't updated it. So I had to manually myself implement the Oculus Touch controller things.
Okay.
So it was maybe a bit more work than it needed to be, because if you start developing a game right now, you can pretty easily get a lot of platforms covered with just one toolkit or one API or so. But
Gotcha. Okay.
It wasn't a super big challenge, but it wasn't super easy either.
Well, I mean, you were doing this obviously when it was still very fresh. So you know, kind
Yeah.
of like the trailblazer for it. Other people who follow now have tutorials and guides, I'm sure.
Yeah. I think it's I think that was part of it. Like it gets easier with time, but since everything was so new, it was kind of challenging. Yeah.
Gotcha. So what? I guess looking at PSVR now, how different is that from Oculus and the Vive? I mean, I know it's not PC based, so like, do you anticipate other challenges there? Have you looked into it, or is that just kind of something that you're looking to get to at some point?
Yeah, I haven't really gotten a lot of time working on the PSVR yet, so I have some worries about the challenges that might occur, but I'm not sure if they will. I hope that a lot of things will go smooth, and there's some things I know that I must fix this, and I must change this, and there's some things that I might have to fix this, or I might have to change this, and I know there will be a lot of things that I don't even think about that I have to fix, but right now, I'm not sure how long it will take or how difficult it would be. Since it's a new console that I haven't worked on before, it's a lot of information to take in and learn about. But yeah, I think it's very fun so far working on it.
Cool. No.
It's different, but I think, like in theory, my game or the Dynado works pretty good for the system, because basically the biggest change from the touch or the Vive is you can't move around as much or turn around as much, but Dynado works kind of fine standing still, and you only have to rotate like 90 degrees to the left or 90 degrees to the right.
Yeah.
And I have to fix with recipes, so you don't have to look back. But yeah, so theoretically, I think the game will work pretty good.
I feel like in some of the single player modes, you kind of have the recipes up front, or sometimes they're on the counter. So wouldn't that be somewhat of a solution?
Yeah, I did that as an update a couple of weeks ago, since a lot of players suggested it. So I added like smaller version of the recipes, and I will try to improve on that for the PSVR port.
So you know what? Like, I'll admit, not that it was annoying, but having to look back around obviously took extra work than having it there in front of you. But to me, that like, I mean, that's what VR is all about. Like being able to like look around as if you're in an actual room. You know what I mean? And so it's like I said, it was just such a nice touch. And I know it's extra work, but yeah, it's not that PSVR is going to have it easier, but they're going to have it a little bit easier.
Yeah, but there's a lot of reason. So I wanted to utilize the space around you. That's why I put some things behind you. Also, I wanted to make it so the game could be played on your minimum play area for the Vive, which is like 2 times 1.5 meters.
Yeah.
So that's why I had quite a small kitchen, and I wanted to keep it that way. So I crammed a lot of things into that small area. And I didn't want it to make it messy. That's why I didn't have the menus in front. And I also felt like if you play a few levels, you probably remember the recipes after a while, or it's like kind of the skill thing where if you get better, you can remember them and you can do it faster and don't have to look back.
Yeah, no, that's definitely one. As you get more experience, you do that. The thing that would throw me off all the time is the specials, because those would change.
Yeah, I guess during the early prototypes, I didn't have any recipes. Every order was randomized. So,
wow, okay.
Then you had like this. You had to have super good communication, because you had to tell exactly each ingredient.
Oh my gosh!
And it was pretty hard to remember everything. So I don't know how well known this is, but like if you beat the last level in the game or the first level, you unlock 10 bonus levels. So it's like from 31 to level 40, and level 36 to 40 uses this mechanic where every order is randomized. So you can still implemented it in the like final bonus levels.
Well,
For
I mean, I think I've made it up to level, I want to say 27 or 28. And that was
yeah,
maybe just like last week or so. That's the highest I've been able to go up without the customers screaming and yelling at me. So
it gets quite difficult.
yeah. So
Uh,
I mean, because I remember hearing like that the difficulty curve, as you get to the tougher levels, like actually increases quite a bit. And so like I started to notice that, and I'm like sweating in there trying to get everything going. But it's okay. So there's extra levels. So for anyone who's almost there to level 30, is that correct?
yeah,
If you beat level 30, you're gonna get 10 bonus levels. So
yeah, and then we have the winter levels that I added like in an update around Christmas, and that's
that's
also like 10 levels, I think.
very cool. So, are you planning on adding more to the game as you go along, or will this be? I guess I'm just curious. Like, when do developers, say like, okay, I'm done with this game, and then maybe focus on the next one, or how does that process work for you?
Yeah, so I said like after release, like I'm done with this. Now I'm done. But we got quite since a lot of people liked it. We felt like yeah we can do some extra things. So we did a winter update, um, and we're quite happy with it because it was a fun thing. But we're not planning on adding any other like expansions or more ingredients or more levels or things like that. I am planning on if someone notices a bug or can't play it, I'm trying to update the game and keep it alive and help people with it. So I might update the game with bug fixes and stuff like that, but I'm not planning on adding any more content to the game right now.
Gotcha. No, I did see those updates, like those patch fixes and things like that. So I'm sure people are definitely appreciative of the fact that you're still very much involved with the game.
Yeah, I try to be. But as I said, I work part-time on it, so I don't have the time to actually add a lot of things, even if I wanted to, unfortunately. But I'm trying to look forward and plan for future events more, because I can't get stuck with this game forever.
No, of course. Well,
It's a tough decision as a game developer to know when you're finished with a game and when you need to keep going.
no, yeah, it's well for any creators out there, like it's tough to say, okay, I'm done, but it's at some point that moment will come for you, and I'm sure we'll all be very happy with where the game has landed. But I guess just moving from what you just said, or moving on to what you just said, has this inspired you, or at least motivated you to continue VR development? I guess on your own, or with maybe another studio or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really looking forward to continue developing. I am, but like right now, as I said, I'm just working on Dynado, making the finishing touches and trying to port it to more consoles. And after that, I definitely keep going with the game development in some way. Yeah.
Very cool. Well, no, we definitely looking forward to whatever cool ideas you got coming out next. So just a couple more questions, if you don't mind. I do want to be respectful of your time.
Yeah, it's no problem.
But let's talk about just VR in general now. And this is a question I love asking to developers like yourself, just because I feel like you have a unique perspective on the industry, more so than people who just bought a Vive or Oculus or PSVR. But it's more so like, as a developer, what is one wish that you have for the future of VR platforms? And the hypothetical that I usually give is like, if you were the CEO of HTC or Oculus, what is the one area you'd want to focus like the company's time, energy, resources, all that? And this doesn't necessarily need to be related to VR Dynado. This could just be virtual reality in general.
Well, that's a difficult question. I guess I really look forward to the cordless or wireless things for VR. I think that's a huge step.
Yep.
As far as development goes, I'm not sure. Like the Vive recently announced this those discs or things you can attach to things.
Yeah.
Like I don't know what they're called, but you
The
know what I'm
trackers, I
talking about.
think.
Yeah, the trackers. I think from a developer's standpoint, I think that's a terrible idea.
Really?
Since,
Okay. I mean, I'm actually curious to get your perspective because as someone like who doesn't know exactly how that's going to be implemented, or as a general consumer
yeah,
like myself, like what are the ideas that developers have for it now? It's cool in theory, but how would that work? Or I guess
yeah,
what's your opinion?
but like it's cool and it can work really really well. But what's I'm worried about is like every game uses a separate object. So to play each game, you have to get a thing or buy a thing or something to actually be able to play a game. And as a developer, I want to reach out to as many as possible, and I don't want to limit myself to like you need this object to play the game. If you understand my point.
Yeah, no, I do.
So that's kind of a worry with that kind of development. I'm not sure exactly how that's going to work because, like now we have a couple of controllers, and I mean the Vive controllers and the Oculus controllers are similar enough that there's not a lot of changes you have to make to a game to be able to play it with both, which I think is great. And it's the same with the PlayStation VR. They are similar enough that you can just tweak a couple of things, and you'll be able to play it on the PS, the VR. So I'm kind of worried how the development of different controllers will affect different games and the limits. Because right now I want to see, I think VR development needs to be more open. So like every game that comes out to the Oculus needs to be playable on the Vive and vice versa. So I want a lot more games being divided between the consoles. I think that's a very important part as a developer, and also for VR as a whole.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, I can definitely see what you're saying with the trackers. It's going to bring up more barriers for people to get into certain games. And I mean, if a game is worth it, then I'm sure it'll call for it. But people might have to buy extra accessories because I know that they were saying use it as like a baseball bat or use it with a fire hose or things like that. But I'm definitely curious to see how developers will be able to utilize it in a way that's positive all around. You know what I mean? But I definitely understand the reservations that you have. I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, but I think that there are some amazing developers out there. I know there are people that will make amazing things with this. So I'm both super excited, but also kind of worried.
Like
so it goes both ways.
It's like that cautious optimism, right? Where you're just not sure, but okay. Yeah, well, the things just it's incredible how much things can change in 6 months to a year. So we'll definitely see with the announcement with them coming out probably middle of this year, 2017, we'll be able to see maybe some of those ideas actually come to fruition, which will be really cool.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of excited about this. Like the Nintendo Switch have this Rumble feature. I don't know if you've heard about it. It's like they call it a HD Rumble.
I have not, but could you tell me a little bit more?
Yeah, so it's like how controllers can rumble.
Yeah,
like
okay.
have this. Yeah, so they have a better version of that can rumble in. I don't know how to explain it, but you can feel how better how things feel in the game. Like they explain it like you can hold a glass in your controller and shake it to feel like ice cubes in the glass.
Wow. Okay.
Just from the rumble. So it's kind of gimmicky, and it's Nintendo, but I think you can use that technology in VR to you feel the weight better from a gun or have impact, a sense of impact better if you use the rumble feature more effectively. Because I think that's very difficult from VR, conveying like impact or things like that.
Well, like that, the whole haptic feedback is like a big area of focus. I know. But I mean, even just that. Well, I know you said it's gimmicky, but like it's still very like it's still such an interesting concept to see if they can integrate like the ice cube thing, just because that'll add such a such a different feel to
Yeah, I think
it'll make people more like immersed in the games or just have a better, I don't know, just a better overall realism to it.
yeah, I'm excited to see how that develops, or what we can see from that in the future. I think that feature would work very well in VR.
So okay, well I'll have to look into that because I'm sure if the technology's out there, there are certainly very smart people at these companies who are trying to figure out how to use them within the headsets and the devices.
Yeah.
So awesome. Well, I want to thank you for your time, Kevin.
No problem.
This last question is really just a shameless promotion or plug opportunity for you. We're gonna post the link to the Steam to the game on Steam in the show notes for anybody who's looking to get the game, and I would highly recommend it to anybody. It's a lot of fun. If you've never tried a local multiplayer game before, this is definitely for you guys. And you know, Ronnie and I have both played this quite a bit, and it adds just such a cool element and dynamic to your VR experiences, especially in group settings. So. But Kevin, is there a way that people can stay in touch with you, or you know they can stay updated with any projects or things that you're working on, or get in touch? You know, just any big fans out there?
Yeah, like the best way is probably my Twitter at Kev Krona, or yeah, you can maybe put a link to it.
Yeah, we'll definitely do.
Yeah, but I just want to say, if there's people listening that play my game or play Down Do and like it, I'm super happy that you've enjoyed the game, and I'm really happy for all the great feedback I've got from this game. It's amazing. So I just want to say thanks to everyone.
Well, it is well deserved. I will say that. So for anyone listening, if you haven't tried it yet, like I said, I mean, make sure you try it. And for those who have tried it, I mean, well, now you got the whole backstory for how it came together, and it just makes the game even that much cooler. So, Kevin, thank you so much. Let's definitely stay in touch. Would love to know what you're working on in the future and see what cool new innovations you got coming down the pipeline.
Thanks.
Awesome. Well, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. We'll have all of the links in the show notes, so you'll definitely be able to follow along there. And just go get the game, especially if you've never tried a local multiplayer game. I'm going to keep saying it for Kevin. Just go get the game. It's a lot of fun. All that feedback and all the positive reviews and stuff like that, they're all true. The game's just a lot of fun. So with that being said, thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we will catch you all next time.